Shane goes. Oh, you got to go here.
Good?
Yep.
Whew, good morning. I am Ann Williams Isom. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. I hope my pastor is not watching this because I'm supposed to be in church. But clearly, the Lord was with me this morning because I got here 5 minutes before time with all this traffic. Thank you for the amen. I am here this morning with the Mayor, the Chief Housing Officer Jessica Katz, Commissioner Gary Jenkins, Shams DeBaron, and our elected official brother and sisters for this very important announcement this morning to talk about some additional supports that we are doing for people so that they can be on their journey and on their way to permanent housing. This administration has made significant investments in this issue, proving, and Mayor Adams says it to us all the time, this is one of his priorities and something that's very important to him. So with that, I hand it over to Mayor Adams. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor, and to my colleagues in government who have joined me today. Clearly an issue that's important to all of us. We hear it all the time about housing those who are our brothers and sisters who have fallen on hard times. The other night, I think it was Thursday night, while out, must have been about 1:30 in the morning, while out looking at our subways on Flatbush and DeKalb Avenue, there was an encampment where a woman was living, and I got out the car and sat down next to her, engaged in a conversation. And it was clear that she needed real mental health support. And she did not want to be there. She didn't trust in the system. She stated that, you know, to have the mayor of the city of New York sit down and talk with her to show real concern, it was important that we at least engage her in a real way and let her know what her options were. And she is symbolic of what I see all the time as I move around the city and stop and talk with those who are living on the streets. And oftentimes, if you don't speak one-on-one with them on the ground, you're not going to resolve this on the ground. You can't resolve it just by being here in the sterilized environment of City Hall and think that's the answer. And no, it's not. That is why I am talking to those who are homeless at 2, 3 in the morning. That's why we're doing the End of the Line program. When you look at the numbers, that first week, I believe we only had 22 people we talked to go into shelter. But after building trust, we're now up to 700 people. 700 people we were walking by every day in our city took us up on the offer of looking at the brochures that we're showing them, showing what the shelter system is looking like, having Gary out there, seeing him out there 2, 3 in the morning, talking to people, being at the end of the line 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, on the ground, talking to people, trying to resolve this issue. So it's easy to sit back and say, there's some miracle that's going to change this. No, this is consistent, hard work, and we are willing to do it. We're willing to roll up our sleeves and get this done, and we're asking everyone to join us. In a few weeks, we're going to be announcing an initiative with Norman Siegel that's going to involve hundreds of volunteers. We are going to meet people where they are, and we're going to build trust. You can't do this without trust. It can't happen, and that is what we're doing. That's why we went from 22 to 700 people. That number should resonate. Those who said we couldn't do it, it's not possible, we're proving them wrong every day, and we continue to use the term that has become connected to our administration, historic. What we are announcing today is the largest investment in the city's history in support of vulnerable New Yorkers experiencing homelessness on our streets and subway. The largest investment in city's history. We say that over and over again, over and over again.
Come on.
You know, and for some reason, that historic part never makes it into the story.
Come
You
on.
know, but we're going to continue to do it. $171 million a year, beginning in fiscal year 2023. Now, this is not a one and done. This is baseline. That every year this is going to happen. The funding will include expanding outreach efforts and connect those in need to specialized resources. We didn't discover this on our own. We spoke to the advocates. We spoke with Sham. We spoke with those. We had a meeting last week, first time where homeless and formerly homeless people sat down with our chief housing officer to give us the ideas as we continue to expand on what we are attempting to accomplish. This funding will help expand these efforts, including safe havens, stabilization beds, and drop-off centers. The things that people have stated constantly, these are the things you need to do. So now here's the partnership. Every elected official, every advocate that states we want these types of beds, we're saying to them, join us. You know, join us. We're not going to oversaturate one community with the beds that we're looking for, because we have done that historically. We're not going to do that. This is a New York City's problem. So the New York City must ensure that this is happen correctly. And so we're making sure that we have safe spaces for New Yorkers to live, to heal, and to be cared for. The investment will help fund 1,400 low barrier haven and stabilization beds, bringing the total up to 4,000. Now, previous administration talked about these beds. We are funding these beds, which is a big difference. It's a difference between articulating on the needs of people and then allocating the money to give the items that are needed for people, and that's what we're doing. 4,000 beds, and this is how we help people get second chances. And we know what happened during the pandemic. People were traumatized. They lost their jobs. They're dealing with mental health illnesses and issues. We need to create a wellness embrace city where we embrace the totality of wellness for all New Yorkers, and that is what we're going to do. The pandemic aggravated these mental health issues, the medical issues. That woman that I communicated with last week should not wait until her chronic disease reaches a crisis moment to fill our emergency rooms. We need to be there for her prior to that to give her the wraparound services she deserves. And for too long, we have not done that. Government has abandoned them, and we know it's wrong to do so, and we're going to move it in the right direction. We're not abandoning our homeless family members and loved ones, and we are proud of this historic allocations of resources, of stating that we're going to show our support for those who are in need. And I want to thank my colleagues who are here, because they have been advocating for this for so long. Gail Brewer, during my days, and we were borough presidents together, she talked about this. Julie Menon, and how she has leaned into, Councilwoman Ayala, and how she has leaned into this. These are our partners, and we're proud to have them here today. I heard you. We're allocating the dollars to get this done correctly, and this is only the beginning. There's so much more we're going to do and consistently do. We're not going to just leave people living in the state that they have been living in for so long. It's imperative for us to take action. We're taking action, and we are allocating the resources with it as well. I thank you so much, Deputy Mayor William Isom, and trust me when I tell you, your pastor is saying amen right now.
Amen. Amen.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, now I'd like to bring up my sister Jessica Katz, our Chief Housing Officer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Williams Isom, and thank you, Mayor Adams, for your commitment to new and better solutions for our housing needs. This is a critical investment that will get us closer to the end goal, permanent housing. All too often, we talk about homelessness and our housing issues as though they are separate. I want to be clear that homelessness is a housing issue, which is why I am here today. We cannot solve the homelessness crisis if we do not have places where people are safe and supported. If someone wants help but is struggling with addiction or mental health issues, we need to make it easier to get services, not harder. For too long, we've required people to jump through hoop after hoop, which often means that those who need the support the most fall through the gaps. Today's announcement is the type of progress we need to stop this. I want to thank the elected officials who are here today, sincerely, the ones who are here and many others across the city who understand it to their core that the New Yorkers who are experiencing homelessness are just as much their constituents as anyone else and who are standing by us here today. I also want to thank those with us today who have experienced homelessness for coming and sharing your stories. You know better than anyone what the issues are and how we can do better. And I'm so grateful for your partnership, because having those who have faced homelessness at the table means we aren't talking about the people we need to serve, but having a conversation with them. This will only make us better prepared to help New Yorkers who are still facing this crisis. Mr. Mayor, thank you again for your commitment to this issue. This is a truly important moment. Thank you.
For many of us in this administration, this is not just a job. For many of us, this is our life's work. With that, I'd like to bring up someone who this is his life work and who takes this issue in particular very seriously, the Commissioner for the Department of Social Services, Mr. Gary Jenkins.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your vision and your leadership. As stated, I'm Commissioner Gary Jenkins from the Department of Social Services, and it is so wonderful to be here today. Today is a good day. Yes. Because today we get to announce the largest investment made by any administration to street outreach and targeted low barrier programs. This investment is going to help support some of our most vulnerable New Yorkers experiencing homelessness on the streets and subways, and will provide them necessary shelter and services. Having personally spent time growing up in our shelter system, I know how critical it is that we invest in our bed capacity so that we can assure New Yorkers that there is a warm place to rest their head if they are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. And I am so excited to bring these resources to our 5 boroughs. Today, we get to help our most vulnerable New Yorkers. Today, we are coming together as a community. And today, we are delivering an investment in their future, our future. My agency is on hand to help in any capacity to ensure that all New Yorkers are being assisted and supported. And I want to take the opportunity to thank all of the elected officials, especially the ones here today. I'm looking forward to working with you and being a partner as we address homelessness in New York City. Thank you.
As the mayor said last week, we had a meeting with a group of people who had lived experience. Shams Zabaran was one of those people, and all of us in the administration sort of stood to the side, and the folks were at the table. It was a profound moment, it was a beautiful moment, but it was also a moment where I think we all learned. Everyone looked different. It was men, it was women, it was young people. They were black, they were white, they were Latinos. And so we really have learned so much and are so appreciative of Shams Zabaran for continuing to teach us, because Lord knows we need to learn a lot. But thank you so much for being here with us today, Shams, and for your partnership.
Yeah, I'm not that tall, you know. Okay. Now I lost the teeth, so you know we working it out. So let me say this. First of all, for my brothers and sisters that have experienced homelessness, are experiencing homelessness, I do want to say that it's such an honor that it's beyond an honor. The fact that this administration has given us what the mayor promised when he was a candidate, a seat at the table. And it's not just, this ain't for photo ops or nothing like that. This is real. Like, homeless New Yorkers from different parts of the city came to City Hall and really contributed to what will become the housing plan for this administration. And that's historic. That's never happened, ever. And so we need to embrace that moment in history. We need to understand our power. Not too long ago, I was on a park bench. Not too long ago, I was riding those subways. And to be able to stand with an administration that's committed to homelessness, and we're not even, 4 months in? We're not even 4 months in. People we're asking, what is he gonna do? Not even 4 months in, and we got 171 million? 171. Not for what you think, but for what the people ask for.
There you go. There you go.
You gotta embrace that. So pardon me, I know I got time. So I want to say greetings to everybody. What a joyful day this is. I'm proud to be here with my mayor, our mayor, the deputy mayor, Ann Williams Isom, Commissioner Gary Jenkins, and the Chief Housing Officer, Jessica Katz, my city council people, my brother Eddie Gibbs. Eddie grew up with me, so that's a good buddy back there. And my name is Shams the Baron. I grew up in foster care since the age of 2. At the age of 10, I started experiencing homelessness. And at 12, I was discharged permanently into the streets. My story ain't all gloom and doom, for I was an academic star and a pioneer of hip-hop. But the experience of being homeless has been a constant factor in my life. I was that person that you see in the street and subway. I had nowhere to go. I did seek help, but help for me was hard to find. And I saw myself descend further into a place of disconnect. I felt the so-called system had failed me in their duty to protect and care for me as a child, and it created problems for me as I grew up into adulthood. I grew to distrust the system, like so many of my peers do. Yet today, I'm proud to say, it ain't gonna be like that no more. Not for me, and not for my brothers and sisters who are living in the streets. I said this before and I'll say it again. I'm not fighting for my brothers and sisters to be in the streets, to be on the subways, or to be in encampments. I'm fighting for them to be treated with dignity, respect, care, and compassion. I'm fighting to get them housed. But on that journey to housing, they'll have a better option than those congregate settings. I'm being nice today. They'll engage with trusted people and be provided safe haven and stabilization beds with medical and mental health services. I'm here with the mayor and his administration applauding this historic funding, which brings the total number of these important beds and resources to over 4,000. That is a huge investment that means more people will be on the path to stability. And what I didn't know, Brother Mayor, is that this is every year.
That's right, brother.
Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking. We need the support of all levels of government, from the federal, state, and the city.
Right.
We need that city council, too. We got hotels. We got to get them.
Right.
We got to change some of these zoning laws. We got to work with the state change some of these things. And our neighbors and residents throughout the city, you have to understand, being homeless doesn't make you a criminal.
That's right.
We are human beings. And if we're giving the proper access to services, then we can thrive in any community. I'm a testament to that. So I want to say that we're in crisis right now. Let's be clear, this is a crisis. I give our mayor props for addressing this crisis, which is decades in the making. Ending homelessness in New York City is not going to happen overnight. But I believe that if we all work together, rich, poor, black, white, I don't care what you identify as, if we all work together and help this administration, we will end homelessness. Like the mayor said, the end goal is housing.
Come on, sir. Come on, sir.
And I know we will get there. Thank you all. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man.
Ooh, we're getting the word this morning for sure. Next, I'd like to bring up the Deputy Speaker, Diana Ayala.
We deserve credit for church because we're all going to get in trouble.
Amen.
We're all going to get in trouble. But thank you to the reporters that actually made it out here today, because I think that this is a really important subject matter. And I wish there were more of you here today, because it's that important that we should all be at the table. And so thank you for being here. I think that when you're looking at the face of homelessness, this is it, right? Shams is it. I am the face of homelessness. The first time I was homeless, I was 5. There was a fire in my building. I lived in the Lower East Side. I started as part of a domestic dispute that left my family and many others in my building homeless, including other family members. We benefited from the Tier 2 shelter setting and were, transitioned over to public housing just across the street. Second time I was homeless, I was 17 years old. I had a son whose father had been murdered. I was struggling, and I emancipated myself and ended up in shelter just not too far from here at Catherine Street in a congregate setting. It's very dehumanizing. It's very scary. I remember I cried the whole first 2 days that I was there. And people kept asking me, why are you crying? And I'm like, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I cry? Like, this is not where I envisioned myself. I think I deserve better than this. I have, and I've shared this story many times, of my brother who suffers from serious mental illness, who has been in and out of incarceration since he was 11 years old. He spent a lot of time in what we call solitary confinement. I call it the box. And that obviously, made his condition worse. He can no longer live in a congregate setting, and he has to live in a shelter because obviously he's not employed. He doesn't have employable skills, and he oftentimes is off medication. Our systems are really broken, and I don't think that people really understand that. As a sibling of a person with mental illness, I struggle. As an elected official, as a deputy speaker of this body, I struggle getting services for my brother, because my brother is an adult and my brother technically can make decisions on his own. And so oftentimes my brother is one of the people that is sleeping in the trains, and oftentimes my brother's sleeping in the park, because he does not feel safe sleeping in a congregate setting. And that's because his mental illness, right? Sometimes I want to strangle him, I'll be honest about that. He is annoying as heck. He can become a handful. And in that type of setting, it's very difficult to manage that. And so I just want to say that we're on the same page in regards to to how we get to a place where people are in a housing environment that they feel safe in, where they're receiving the services that they receive. And I'll further share that when I came into office, many of you know 125th Street, and I've spent, and Eddie, who's my neighboring assembly member, knows, 8 years I've been working on 125th Street. I have a lot of gray hair under this to die. And when I die, on the record, I want 125th Street named after me.
I got dibs for that.
But I remember going there and in the height of the synthetic marijuana, and we did a lot of work to clean up a lot of the conditions there. But then after we did that, about 80% of the population disappeared and a very small percent stood behind, and we wondered, well, these are the people that need the most intensive, care. And so I said, well, how are we going to treat them? And they said, well, we can't. We're doing nothing. And I said, what do you mean we're doing nothing? Well, we can't force them to go into a shelter, and we can't force them to go into a mental health facility, and we can't force them to seek substance use disorder, services. So, and it's a public street. They're not breaking the law. So as long as they're not doing anything, we can't do anything. They'll live there, and that's it. And I said, what? That's ridiculous. That is inhumane. It is the equivalent of leaving a child out on the street many times.
Right. Come on.
It is inhumane. And I've lost, obviously throughout the years, many of these people have become friends. I know them by name, and they have died on the street. They have died because they've been exposed to harsh weather. They have died because they have been sick and they had no idea that they were sick because they hadn't seen a primary doctor in years. So safe haven beds, stabilized beds, drop-in centers, they work. We know that they work. This is a meaningful investment. I am really excited to be here today, and I want to thank the mayor, because I do agree that we cannot simply walk by and do nothing. And so this is a humongous, a step forward, and I thank all of the colleagues, because this, I'm sure everybody here plays a role in this. So thank you all, and I look forward to budget handshake.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. It just reminds me the importance of stories and how stories can help you really see the issues in ways sometimes we don't want to get that close to them. So thank you so much for sharing that. Next speaker will be Assemblyman Eddie Gibbs.
How you doing?
Do I need to get on post?
No, you good. Good morning, everybody. I changed my mind. I put in the request to have 125th Street named after me when I leave this earth, but my deputy speaker can have whatever she wants. In fact, you can have 116th Street too. It was the legendary Mahatma Gandhi who once said the true measures of any society could be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. Often I'm reminded of this quote when I encounter people experiencing homelessness in our city. We all have an obligation to care for, serve, and to ultimately protect every New Yorker. People experiencing homelessness are certainly no exception. I applaud this historic, and I'm saying that word again, historic investment in resources and services to help this vulnerable population. And I know politicians like to throw around the word often, historic. But guys, we're talking about $171 million. When we are talking about $171 million that's going to help this vulnerable population, I cannot help but say the word historic, because this truly matters. This is the largest investment of this nature made by any city administration ever, and a critical step in our ongoing mission to turn New York around and make it the more equitable city that we all deserve. So, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for this game changer in addressing homelessness in our New York. I was trying to get to the Yankee game yesterday to get you a baseball bat because I wanted to present it to you today so you could continue to knock it out the park. All right. But we know what happened in Cleveland, so I can't do it, but I thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Not very good, Eddie.
I am proud to be a New Yorker every day, but there's something about this moment that I think I'm going to remember for a long time. So thank you, Assemblyman. Next, we have Councilmember Gail Brewer.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, former borough president. And I am honored to be here today for a couple of reasons. First of all, you put together a great team to talk about housing. And that is half of the solution. The other half is knowing what to do. And I want to be really clear, from the Olivieri Center, which has been around since Councilmember Tony Olivieri and his family decided to name it after them, drop-in center, to recently touring an extraordinary safe haven run by CUCS on 14th Street, to supporting what I know Julie Menon, I think, feels the same way, East 91st Street, got a Riverside building, a safe haven, to my understanding, CUCS considering another safe haven. I already have several on the Upper West Side. That's what we need. We need stabilization beds and we need safe havens. Then, as time goes on, people, as the mayor indicated, come off the street and then they end up pushing, we all push with them, for affordable housing. We do need to get either the Kavanaugh bill or Carlina Rivera's bill to change the DOB so that we can go from, on the hotels, so we can go from hotel to rent stabilization. I don't understand why the hell we need this law, but we do. So the issue for me is this is absolutely the right way to go. We've all been talking about it for decades. The quality of these safe havens is extraordinary. I hope that people tour them and see. You end up with your own room, you end up with support services, you end up with maybe 18 months, and then you go directly to permanent supportive housing if that's appropriate. So this $171 million is doing the right thing. We just need to make sure that we find sites, and I wanted to agree with what the mayor said. Everybody has to take their share. They have to understand that when you have a quality nonprofit, I'm very picky about my nonprofits, right. But when you have a quality nonprofit building a safe haven or stabilization beds, it's an asset to your community. That's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer, and thank you for your longtime support of this issue. Another person who has been at the forefront of this issue for a long time, Councilmember Julie Menon.
Julie.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. I cannot tell you how honored I am to be here today for this game changer of an announcement. And it is a game changer because we all know the crisis that is going on in our city. For so many of our neighbors who've lost their job, or they might have mental health issues or substance abuse problems, and now are experiencing homelessness. I want to thank the mayor for this incredible investment of $171 million so that 4,000 New Yorkers who are experiencing homelessness will now have a bed, will now have housing, will now have the kind of services that they need, mental health counseling, placement for jobs. This is so vital. As Gail Brewer mentioned, we are building a safe haven in my district on East 91st Street. It is an 88-bed facility. We are incredibly proud of that. And yes, every community needs to make sure that they are stepping up and doing the same. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for doing this, and thank you to the administration.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Mayor. Good
How's
to
it
see you.
going? You 7 days a week like me, you know that.
Get stuff done too. A lot of folks here referencing how difficult the fight often is to select a location, convince the community that this is an asset, as Councilmember Brewer said. How do you avoid fights like what we're seeing in Chinatown, like what we saw with the Lucerne on the west side? How do you kind of message that and see this to fruition?
Great question. And what we are doing, information is key. Commissioner Jenkins we're going to put in place a GIS mapping. So when we sit down and speak with our council persons, we can show them where their colleagues have beds, how many beds they have in their area. And so when we go to community boards, it shouldn't be that we're trying to dump into your community. We believe the city has failed to do a real visual analysis of here are the beds. And then as partners, say, where would you like the bed in your councilmatic district? I know that in particular, Bob Holden attempted to say that instead of putting the bed in this location, can we put it in this location? No one was willing to listen to him. We don't want to do that. We want a partnership with our council persons and say, here's the beds across the city. If there are 10 in one district and there's 2 in your district, we need your help in placing the beds in your district. So it's about information. We don't want to force feed. We want a partnership to get it right.
Mr. Mayor, over the last few weeks, we've seen a bit of a revolving door We've had folks who put up encampments, refuse to leave the encampments, then get arrested, then come back 2 weeks later. You know, the same thing happen over and over again. Arrests, camps being built. Is this investment, do you think it could help stop this revolving door of arrests and these encampments keep getting built?
Yes, without a doubt. And remember, as we stated, we're building trust. So when you have 10 people that you say we're no longer living on the street like this, and 2 of the 10 decide, well, I'm going to find another location, sometimes we miss the 8. The 8 that have made the decision, either they're going to go back home, they're going to take us up on our safe havens, they're going to find other ways to make sure they have the proper housing, and then we're going to go back to the 2. We're going to continue to build trust. We have an amazing group of people who are on the street every day building that trust. That trust is part of the problem that we're finding. When I spoke with the woman last week, she just did not have trust. She didn't believe anyone cared. We have to do the one-on-one hard work of sitting down and having those conversations, and that's what the teams are doing at the end of the line. That's what they're doing on the streets. We are showing the compassion, the caring, and we have to rebuild the trust until we can get those 2 that state they are going to come and go back out. That's the goal. You want to say something? I heard somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I just wanted to say, to answer your question, forgive me, pardon me.
Okay, brother.
But I think one of the things that is very important is in the Lucerne situation was the fact of community engagement. And I think in the previous administration, there was not enough community engagement prior to bringing homeless New Yorkers or even supportive housing into certain communities. And I think the difference now is that there's more of a desire to reach out to communities on all sides of the table and respect the differing views and be able to engage in order to show the value that, say, for instance, a safe haven, a stabilization bed presents to each community. And so even in a place like Chinatown, I know that there's serious engagement within the community to show them that there is value in having those type of so-called facilities in those places. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we'll move to off topic.
Yep. Okay, folks. Thank you. Let's have it.
Thank you. I need your phone. I need to be.
I guess this is flying solo.
Go for it.
On NYPD and vaccinations, how many notices have gone out to unvaccinated NYPD to say, now's the time before you're gone?
I'm not sure, but we'll find out for you. I know they started looking at the appeals, and they're making a determination based on the appeals, those who were accepted, those who were denied, but we'll get the exact number of how many notices went out. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Well, you're by yourself, so we'll give you 2.
I appreciate it. Kind of a camping Earth Week type of question, tangential to Earth Week. You have a decision that may need to come in the next few years on the BQE, the cantilever stretch in Brooklyn Heights. I wanted to see if you've given any thought to that. Your predecessor going to put in some Band-Aid fixes to give it a couple of years, but you're going to need to start planning soon on that.
Without a doubt. Had a meeting this morning with the Chief of Staff. We are going to engage the Governor's Office as well as some of the federal infrastructure dollars. And last week I spoke with briefly Congresswoman Velasquez, who's also stating that, of course, part of the BQE runs through her district. She stated, let's put our heads together, because you're right. I think it's 2027. We have to make some drastic moves, and we were engaged this morning. This is definitely on our radar, but we need help from the federal government and state government to put the right package together, and everyone seems to be interested in doing so.
Might look like.
No, I'm excited. There's been a lot of recommendations, and I think there's some good ideas out there. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you.